Enough is enough. I'm a Vietnam-era vet, a brother, uncle, husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and a friend. I have been married for 50 years, and I am scared for my family, my country, and my fellow Americans more than ever before in my life. I am neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I feel voting is an honor, a privilege, and a duty. I strongly believe we need and deserve trust, truth, dignity, responsible leadership, and a healthy dose of morality. We also need a renewed appreciation for the United States of America, our military, and all our law enforcement. We are all one America, and we are all Americans, no matter what is said or done by either side. If you were born here or became a U.S. citizen, you are privileged regardless of your race, creed, color, or sex. You are an American, and America is still the greatest country in the world. It has the most opportunity for all who seek it because of the men and women in the military and law enforcement that put their lives on the line each and every day to keep us safe, and those who died defending the freedom, liberty, and protection you and I have and enjoy. Let me speak about trust. I believe you can trust everybody, and you can trust them all the time. Let me explain. If they tell you the truth, trust them to tell you the truth. But more importantly, if they lie to you, trust them to lie to you, because they will lie to you again and again into perpetuity, no matter what their political affiliation is or their lack of one. Albert Einstein once said, "Blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth." That is profound, succinct, and worth noting. The United States and all Americans need truth so we do not become more divided than we already are. So, what is the truth? And when did we become so politically correct and woke that we became morally corrupt and spiritually broke? When was the first domino tip that started the avalanche into a recession and a possible nuclear threat, which we seem to be under right now? President Biden was handed an energy-independent America with affordable food, necessities, and gas at $2.39 a gallon. However, he promised the left and the squad he would address climate change, so he cut off the Keystone Pipeline on day one without a workable backup plan. He just cut it off, tipping the first of many, many dominoes in a chain reaction depleting regular people's net worth. This one event forced gas prices to go up, and in turn the prices of everything else in our economy, because, like it or not, we are dependent on fossil fuel. It's the cornerstone and lifeblood that powers the grid, the nation, and a necessary backup for any advances in solar, wind, or nuclear power. He is solely responsible for this and so many other depraved things we, our children, the United States, and the world is and will be facing now and in the future. Then in May 2021, President Biden waived sanctions on Nord Stream 2, giving Russia a cash cow while the formerly energy-independent United States is forced to buy oil elsewhere. Oil that must be shipped by tankers that burn 16 tons of fuel an hour and 380 tons a day while at sea, when we could be producing our own oil and supplying our allies with the excess. How is it that President Biden's actions increase the carbon footprint, which he claims to be against, and he isn't called on it? Is it because he has a D after his name? Is the far left, the media, and the Washington swamp protecting him for doing their bidding because he is a vested swamp creature? I don't know, but I do know this. President Trump was right. The swamp needs to be drained, preferably before it's too late, and we are getting close, way too close. It seems to me that President Biden has needlessly, recklessly, and intentionally given Russia the means to fund Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and I, for one, question President Biden's motivations and loyalties. I am not a smart man or a politician, but it seems crazy to me to hand a loaded weapon to a mentally challenged person. But isn't that what happened when President Biden was elected? He is not the moderate uniter he claimed to be, and I seriously doubt he is really in charge of anything. He is an empty vessel, controlled by the left like a puppet. All those things he continually claims MAGA Republicans to be is a distraction and a reflection of what he is, does, and promotes. Like he said, just watch me. and we are watching. I also wonder if he had not cut off the Keystone Pipeline and had he not waived sanctions on Nord Stream 2, would there have even been an invasion in Ukraine? Truth is, there would have been much less inflation, pollution, and less lives lost at home and abroad had President Biden not tipped that first domino. He also made the cartels rich and powerful beyond their dreams, and Americans poorer and their lives much more dangerous with an open border and the influx of evil drugs like fentanyl from China through Mexico that are killing our youth presently at over 100,000 a year under his watch. How about this? Instead of hiring 87,000 armed IRS agents, why not hire 87,000 armed border agents instead to help protect our border and keep us safe, secure, and most of all, save lives? Because of President Biden's disastrous, ill-planned departure from Afghanistan, we abandoned tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of our allies who assisted us over the course of 20 years. We also left billions of dollars of weaponry, thus arming the Taliban and sentencing our allies to a torturous death. Why didn't he get the people and weapons out first, before the withdrawal? I, as a veteran, feel it was immoral, unpatriotic, and unjustified. This was a slap in the face and a kick in the gut for all veterans past, present, and future. This is not how America is supposed to treat the military or the people who supported them. How will anyone ever trust us again? And what about the rampant ongoing crime in our cities fueled by George Soros' funded woke DAs, reduced charges, and no bail? Or the 500-plus riots and seemingly little or no arrests or convictions for the lives lost and billions of dollars in destroyed property and historical monuments? And for those arrested in the riots, Vice President Harris encouraged us to contribute to a bailout fund for them, as if she was saying, do whatever you want, no consequences, we will bail you out. Yet another domino tipped, because I see ongoing crimes with the same or similar scenarios on the news with consistency on a weekly and sometimes daily basis. And what we are seeing now could simply be fallout from Vice President Harris's bailout request to the nation and the woke DA's no bail, no jail, no consequences, just in time for Christmas shoplifting. There is also the demonization of the police, weaponization of the justice system, and the targeted breakdown of our educational system, as well as the mind pollution of our youth with drag shows, talk of sexploitation, gender inclusiveness, CRT, systemic racism, and white privilege. What happened to the real education, like reading, writing, and math? It's destructive cultural Marxism designed to divide, conquer, and control us, and it's morally wrong. Here's a news flash and science fact. DNA cannot be changed. You were born male or female, and children, especially children, should not be a mind, chemical, or surgical experiment for depraved pedophiles and sexual deviants. That's child abuse of the worst kind and criminal. When do we prosecute these people and the institutions that support them? President Biden said the pandemic was over. There was zero inflation, and there would be no tax increase for regular people making less than $400,000 a year. But his inflation rate at 8.3% is presently costing us a month's salary or $4,200 extra a year so far. That's more than 2 monthly Social Security checks for retirees. Vice President Harris and Secretary Mayorkas claim the border is secure, yet we have the largest number of illegals entering our country in history. President Biden also suggested President Trump should have resigned when there were over 220,000 COVID deaths. However, under President Biden's watch, there were over 1 million COVID deaths by May 2022, but he didn't resign. His hypocrisy and that of the Democratic Party is far, wide, and deep, just like the swamp. When I look at the Russia hoax waged and paid for by Hillary Clinton against President Trump, the impeachments, and the following attacks in an effort to continue the witch hunt to bar President Trump from running ever again, I ask myself, why is banning President Trump so paramount to them? Because Democrats, as well as some Republicans and others in the swamp, don't want him draining the swamp. The swamp creatures are afraid the truth will cause them to lose power and money, so they continue to spend taxpayer dollars and mortgage it to our children and our grandchildren. It's sickening, disgusting, and wrong, but some families are above the law and need investigation. Families like the Bidens, Clintons, Pelosi's, and elected officials like Schumer, Warren, Schiff, Nadler, and others like Fauci, who have their own unholy alliance like the Squad and are willing to lie, cheat, and steal to achieve their agenda, stay in power, become well off at the taxpayer's expense, and ban President Trump from holding any office ever again. Via the media and propaganda, you can tell me gas prices have dropped and expect me to be happy. But I'm not happy or fooled. If it goes down pennies after it went up by dollars, it's not the prize you tout it to be, because like it or not, our economy runs on fossil fuel, and the cost is just passed on to the consumer as it always has been, because we are a capitalist nation in spite of the socialists and Marxists in power. President Biden is trying to push for student loan forgiveness, and that, using his words, is a bunch of malarkey. Number one, it's not forgiveness. He is just shifting the debt to the taxpayers. Number two, I don't believe he has the legal power to do that. And number three, I think it's a pitiful political ploy to harvest votes. And with all President Biden's reckless spending, it will cost each taxpayer in excess of $35,000 respectively by the time it gets paid off. President Biden's Build Back Better is more like Build Back Broke. That does not seem horrendous, that seems felonious. I just wish I could see proof that no one is above the law, because it seems like all the things he and the left falsely accused President Trump of, or were afraid he was about to do, is exactly what he and the Democrats are doing right now. I find it odd but revealing that President Biden, the self-claimed unifier, balls up his fists and condemns the MAGA crowd with anger, division, hatred, lies, and hollering, but he never says anything about Antifa, Black Lives Matter, or the rioters. Have his handlers ever explained to him that MAGA stands for Make America Great Again? It was first used by Senator Alexander Wiley in 1940, then Barry Goldwater in 1964, President Reagan in 1980, Bill Clinton in 1992, Hillary Clinton in 2008, and President Trump in 2012. So it's not about Trump or any party, but America and Americans. Every true American should want to make America greater than it is right now under the guidance and direction of President Biden and his administration. Additionally, the solar panels and wind turbines we buy from China are put together, at least in part, by slave labor. The Global Slavery Index estimates that there are 3.8 million slaves in China. So President Biden, his administration, and we Americans inadvertently support slave labor, as do many U.S. corporations and associations. Why isn't the American public outraged about these human rights violations? I also wonder if Hunter Biden's connections and investments in China and Ukraine influenced any of these decisions to work with China. I pray they can force an investigation into Hunter's connections and information on his laptop and share the truth with us. Or could it be that's why nothing has been done yet? Because the roots are so deep and the big guy wants it blocked and buried. I think a majority of Americans want the truth, even if we don't like it or agree with it. Make sure the people you elect also want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, with no sophomoric political spins. Another shameful point is President Biden's deceitful stance on abortion. His and Nancy Pelosi's Catholic religion emphatically states that human life must be respected and protected, absolutely, from the moment of conception. Yet he encourages us to agree and follow his party's line, promoting pro-choice. And Vice President Harris, a Baptist, on September 8, 2022, claimed that Americans of any religion can support abortion in accordance with their faith. But most religions kind of frown on murder like it was a big deal, don't they? I was glad to see that the Southern Baptist Convention President, Bart Barber, condemned Vice President Harris's pro-abortion remarks, and so do I. Do you? Then vote accordingly. I feel it's sinful and pathetic that our top 3 leaders who claim to be Christians would knowingly encourage us to kill the unborn gifts from God. What a different world this would be if Abraham, Jesus, or Muhammad would have been aborted. What gifts, talents, and dreams were lost that could have blessed the world. It's also repugnant that Nancy's nephew, Governor Gavin Newsom, would promote abortions in California and use a Bible verse on the billboard to help him. He has blasphemed against God. I think of it this way. If you took every living soul, man, woman, and child, from any of the 6 colors on the map and wiped them out, aborted them all at once, killed them, it would still be less lives taken than we have already lost through Roe versus Wade. This is not religious, it's just fact. There is immense irony when we read the Chinese proverb, "The fish rots from the head down," and that is certainly true of our present president and his administration. President Obama was spot on when he said, "Don't underestimate Joe's ability to F things up." And I think Joe has done a stellar job effing things up. I believe had President Trump been elected in 2020, there would be none of this fear in me or my fellow Americans, and none of this present-day nonsense and buffoonery of the woke folk. The wall would have been built, respect for the United States of America would have been maintained, and the bad actors, drugs, death, and destruction would have been demonstrably less. We all would have more money in our pockets and our economy. The USA and the world would be a safer place. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true. I am not bound to succeed, but I am bound to live up to the light I have. I must stand with anybody that stands right, stand with him while he is right, and part with him when he goes wrong." So let's vote the bad actors out and the good people in, no matter what their political affiliation is, and get this train back on the right track. We need and deserve responsible leadership and an extremely healthy dose of morality and truth. God bless the United States of America, and God bless all Americans.
Take a look and you will see a certain lack of honesty when people try to pass the buck, ignore the truth and pray for luck. But truth is never changing, it won't stand rearranging. The test of truth is time and fidelity. So go your way and I'll go mine. Think not of me, I'm doing fine. You're the one who's lost control. You've given up your very soul. Truth is never changing, it won't stand rearranging.